The Beijing Library at 3 in the morning was a cathedral of silence. On the 9th floor, where the oldest manuscripts were kept, the air smelled of brittle paper, dust, and the faint ghost of pine-scented polish. The security guard, old Chun, had been dozing in his chair near the elevator, a habit he'd developed over 12 night shifts, one that no supervisor had ever caught. The motion sensors in the corridor were supposed to trigger a soft chime, but they didn't. The automatic doors at the stairwell entrance parted without a sound. That was how Li Wei walked in. He was 23, though his face looked older, hollowed out by sleeplessness and the particular exhaustion that comes from having nowhere to go. He wore a thin gray jacket, unzipped, over a t-shirt that had once been white. No backpack, no books, no library card. Just him and the silence. Old Chun woke with a start when the reading lights above the eastern aisle flickered on, one after another, like dominoes falling. He squinted through the dimness and saw a figure standing in front of shelf 9E, head tilted, as if listening to something only he could hear. "Library's closed," Old Chun said, his voice raspy. "No entry without a card." Li Wei didn't turn around. "I know," he said quietly, "but I'm not here to read." Old Chun shuffled closer, flashlight in hand, but not yet raised. He'd seen strange things in his years. Students crying over failed theses, old men trying to sleep in the periodicals section, once a woman who'd come to hide from a bad marriage. But never someone who simply walked in at 3 a.m. without a card and admitted he wasn't there to read. "Then what are you here for?" Old Chun asked. Li Wei pointed at a single book on the shelf. Not a rare edition, not a valuable first printing, just a worn paperback of Tang Dynasty poetry, its spine cracked. "That one," he said. "I need to find the person who last borrowed it." Old Chun pulled out his tablet, the librarian's old-fashioned concession to a digital world. He typed in the book's ID. The last borrower, a name he didn't recognize. Zhang Min. Last checked out 11 years ago. "That's my mother," Li Wei said. The silence that followed was heavier than before. On the 9th floor, the air conditioning hummed a low note, and somewhere a pipe ticked like a slow clock. "She used to bring me here when I was a kid," Li Wei continued. "Before the divorce. Before she left. She'd sit in that corner by the window and read to me from this book. 100 years from now, another moon will rise over the same river," she'd say. "I never understood it then." Old Chun lowered his flashlight. "She passed away?" "No. She just disappeared. 11 years ago. No note, no call. The police said she was probably fine. Adults are allowed to vanish, they told me. But I never believed it. She loved this place. She loved that book. So I started coming here, night after night, waiting. For what? For her to come back for it." Old Chun looked at the boy, no, the man in the thin gray jacket. He saw something he recognized. Not madness, but the quiet geometry of grief. The way it folds time into a loop. The way it makes a person believe that if they just return to the right place at the right hour, the past will open its door again. "You know," Old Chun said slowly, "I've worked this floor for 12 years. 3 to 9 in the morning, mostly. I've seen a lot of sad people. But you're not sad. You're waiting. Isn't that the same thing?" "No," Old Chun said. "Sad people come to cry. Waiting people come to watch. You've been watching that shelf for how long?" 6 months. From the street. But tonight I wanted to hold it." Old Chun sighed, a long, tired sound that carried the weight of his own forgotten hopes. He took out his keys, walked to the shelf, and pulled the poetry collection. He handed it to Li Wei without stamping it, without scanning anything. "Sit in your mother's corner," he said. "The reading lights stay on until dawn. And Li Wei, if she ever comes back for this book, I'll tell her you were here." Li Wei sat down by the window, the book open in his lap. He didn't read it. He just held it, pressing his palm against the cover as if feeling for a pulse. Outside, Beijing was still dark, but the first hints of gray had begun to seep into the sky above the Fifth Ring Road. Old Chen returned to his chair and did not fall back asleep. Instead, he watched the young man in the corner and thought about all the things people leave behind in libraries. Fingerprints, coffee stains, penciled notes in margins, and sometimes entire lives folded between pages. Dawn came quietly. The automatic lights dimmed one by one. Li Wei closed the book, returned it to the shelf with careful hands, and walked toward the stairwell. "Thank you," he said without turning around. "Come back anytime," Old Chen replied. "But next time get a card." At the door, Li Wei paused. "Do you think she's still alive?" Old Chen thought for a long moment. "I think," he said, "that love is a library card without an expiration date. Even if you never use it again, it still remembers your name." And then the young man was gone, the door whispered shut, and the 9th floor of the Beijing Library returned to its ancient, patient silence, waiting, as libraries do, for the next story to walk in.